Map 2, Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Simplicity picking that one, so luxuries of that first pick. First band gonna go over to Scythe Esports again, but honestly, second pick has been very, very powerful recently. Like a lot of win percentage coming from that point. So we'll see how these drafts start out, but it seems as well that these double support compositions have been tough for the Open Division teams to deal with. I want to see, we talked about the Uther banning yesterday. We're like, really, that is the big point. Casanova, even on his post-game interview, talked about the Uther being a power point for that double support because of the armor that Uther does provide. I think you got to get rid of it and try to even the playing fields.
Yeah. Now it's tough because this meta kind of was born a little bit after Open Division playoffs.
Yep.
So, when they were doing, they've been grinding, right? These teams have been practicing with HGC teams and grinding however much they can in this environment. But regardless, it's a different meta. And some teams straight up are just worse at different metas, right? It doesn't mean that they're not good enough. And we're going to find out if they do have the ability to adapt to that double support style composition right here, right now.
Game number 2, folks. Simplicity versus Scythe Esports. Simplicity up 1 game. Last game, of course, being Cursed Hollow. Quick match as well. Scythe Esports banning that Tyrande. We've seen a few games of Tyrande. Some of it hit, some of it miss.
K1 Pro and Tyrande, I would not allow it.
Yeah.
His Tyrande back in the day was absolutely disgusting. This was a completely different iteration than even the one prior to this one, where he would play an auto attack build and just top the charts to a pretty ridiculous stance. So, yeah, I haven't seen his new Tyrande, but I would not want to play against it.
My mans can hit those E's, that's for sure. Scythe Esports locking in that white main first pick. Honestly, the Scarlet Aegises were huge last game. Yes,
huge,
they didn't result in the victory for Scythe Esports, but still, Intori knows what he's doing.
Yeah, no, can't count it out. Bans are identical?
Ooh, weird. Tass Raynor as the 1-2. Lots of wave clear, again, going into this more of a double support style. Tassadar, not a full support, but still, he is a hero that is heavily based on utility.
Tons of potential just for stalling, controlling space. I'm actually really happy to see them going just a complete 180 with their opening to the draft. It makes it really tough to draft against them when they're not. If you first pick your support every single game, it becomes a pattern that can absolutely work against you, and that's something we saw Sizestorm doing yesterday. The first picks were so predictable that I think it really did hurt them in the draft. And that's something that HGC teams versus Open Division teams I find to be a big difference.
Next bands coming in, of course, Yrel and Johanna picked up for Scythe Esports. Yrel, arguably one of the best offlaners, or even just heroes in the game right now. Lots of armor provided, so you're going to have the armor from Whitewing, you're going to have the armor from Yrel, so this is already a very tanky composition. Sergeant Hammer banned off. Yep, Scythe Esports love that hammer, that's for darn certain.
Maps like this, maps like Towers of Doom, they play it a lot, and they're very good with it. So, an intelligent ban here coming out from Simplicity. Scythe could try to take away Deckard Cain or a big support. Yeah, okay, I like that.
No Deckard. The sustain from Deckard, Raynor, Tassadar is just so tough to deal with.
Agreed.
But we've seen a lot of Malfurion show up today. Even Quacknick's playing that hero. That was kind of fun to watch. Yeah,
but every time we've seen the Malfurion, that becomes a kill target. So, in a way, Yrel's not the scariest dive, but I'd still be hesitant personally.
It would be tough.
It's too foul. Okay, I do actually prefer that in this case.
Cool. You got that AoE silence. You got Tyrael as well for the Sanctification. So you got shields from Tassadar, you got shields from Tyrael's basic kit, and then of course the Sanctification on top of that. This Raynor is going to be very difficult to kill. Scythe Esports need to find some way of locking down this hero because right now they don't have a lot of damage. Perhaps they run into something like a Phoenix or a Thrall, but again, just not the craziest amount of damage from something like that. We'll see what they end up going. It's, again, the Zeratul.
Sticking to their guns.
Gul'dan Zeratul. That is not the combination I expected here. But that wave clear is good, though.
No, the wave clear is huge, right? When it comes to dealing with early game web weavers, they absolutely have the response. So on this map, I feel just in general, if you get the web weavers against you, it's not that big of a deal. They can deal with them, they can clean them up, and get that Zeratul to the late game standing where they're going to want it. Zeratul finding picks here is going to be such a challenge.
Yep.
Maybe if they force Dimensional Shift on Tassadar early, he's killable. Beyond that, this is really tough.
couple of fun things to talk about there. Leoric coming in as the last pickup. Love to see some Leoric, and of course you're against the Urel and the Johanna, so the Drain Life is going to be highly effective here. Couple of things that I did want to talk about as far as just the interactions in this game is the fact that you've got Zeratul, who likes when heroes are clumped. You're playing against a Tyrael. You want to be clumped up for the shields, for the sanctification. Horrifies as well, the corruptions as well. So there's going to be this idea of simplicity is, do we group for the shields? Do we wait for the horrify? Like, you have to get into the sanctification, but be careful of the horrifies off of it because you're all grouped up. That sort of stuff is going to be really fun to watch in this game.
Yeah, the battle of Sanct shutting down VPs or being used after a VP. It's going to be definitely a dance between these players, but it should be a really good match. I actually like the compositions a lot here, but this is another playstyle where it's just like the sustain is insane for simplicity. And Scythe struggled in that last game versus the Uther versus Lucio. This is even more sustain heavy with the Leoric just not mattering. If you kill him, he's back in an instant. Who do you think has the better comp?
I think these comps are actually pretty even. If this was any other team aside from Scythe, I would probably go with Simplicity just because the execution burden is heavily on Scythe in this case, and you don't always want that to be the case, especially when you're the underdog team. But at least you have that wave clear in the Gul'dan if you go down the first objective. We're going to find out right now. Game number 2, Simplicity versus Scythe Esports. Let's get to it.
Loading in, we got Hosty rocking the Tassadar. K1 Pro is going to be playing Raynor, King Caffeine on Tyrael, Zuna on Leoric, and Stukov played by Tiger JK.
On the right, in red, Scythe Esports, it's Nesper on that Zeratul, Nintori playing White Mane, Zainhide on Johanna, Zergling on Urel, and Talking Trees playing that Gul'dan. Talking Trees not locking in that E level 1 talent, making me a little bit jittery. There we go. Good stuff.
Corruption just has so much late game damage potential. You think about the Zeratul plus the Gul'dan, level 16 to 20, and it's just so much damage that would absolutely overwhelm the shields of Tyrael and the heals of Stukov if they hit the big skill shots there. But okay, I mean, compositionally, we're seeing some pretty meta picks for this map. Gul'dan, probably the best lane clear in the game. Johanna, one of the best piggy banks, just holding the gems, stepping up, being able to safely grab them, control the space around the coffer. But I don't know how, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how well this Zeratul does here.
I agree. And there's a couple things to talk about as well. Zeratul wants that 16-20, but so does Leoric. You know, there's not a whole lot of dive on the side of Simplicity. You have the Tyrael, of course, but the follow-up just really isn't there in copious amounts. There's no Genjis and stuff like that. But the level 20 for Leoric, you've got that buried alive, and that is perfect access to the Gul'dan.
It is, and you know, Zuna, the one that's going to be in control of that ability, I mean, that's definitely scary. He can land the big entombs and shut things down. Tools do exist. Talking Trees, probably one of the better assassin players from the open division, maybe the best, honestly. He really can land disgusting horrifies to confirm kills or shut down those kind of plays. Yeah,
definitely. He is a star player, that's for sure. I also like what King Caffeine did there, you know, picking up all of the gems off of the first couple of waves, actually having 8 of the 10 gems and immediately getting that turn in. Of course, 11 turned in now for Scythe Esports as well. Level 1 talents, you know, we went over it a little bit, nothing too crazy. The Ossian renewal for Leoric. Bruiser Camp coming out for Simplicity. And this is a very early Bruiser Camp. Sometimes we see this with the likes of Tyrael because you do have that Justice for All W talent. We're going to see him shielding this minion wave just like that to stop the push of Scythe Esports, but you can't reasonably do that against a Gul'dan. He's just too powerful. K1 taking a bit of damage, but this is Raynor double support.
And I guess that's just another bonus point to drafting this Gul'dan and this composition, right? It's going to be good against all of those kind of strategies. That wave did nothing. And yeah, frankly, that's just really good here. A resource wasted effectively in the form of that Night Camp, the Bruiser Camp, for Simplicity.
And that's why Gul'dan is my favorite hero, because if it works in competitive, you know it works 10 times better in Hero League. Ladies and gentlemen, pick up the Fel Mage. Nesper taking a bit of damage here, but he's going to be all right.
Did you call him a Fel Mage? I like that. All right, so Zuna on that Leo, basically just trying to soak, collect the gems. Very hard to rotate and gank that here as well, but you know, it looks like we do have Zeratul kind of going down towards the bottom coffer just to keep eyes on Nesper, making sure nobody's getting a free gem turn in. It's already 23 dropped off for the side of Scythe Esports, which is fantastic for them, but there are enough to turn in for both teams.
Big silence is coming out already from the likes of Tiger JK. You know, in those pregame interviews, We heard them saying that Tiger JK was a problem in a series prior, but to me, he's that passionate player that can really come online when given, you know, maybe not even given the opportunity, but when it comes, push comes to shove, Tiger JK shows up. We're going to see if I am a liar in this series, but so far he's been playing quite well.
I've always thought he was kind of hot cold, right? If he's having a bad day, he's having a bad day. Simple as that. But in a situation where he's confident, like going up against an open division team, the guy just seems like an absolute legend. And thus far, yeah, I think he looks really strong right now. Now we do have those gems collected enough to turn it on either side. Looks like we do have 4 members posturing down around the bottom half, but it could be... All right, yeah, Tyrael is stepping up to make sure King Caffeine has control of the top.
Getting stalled out there by the blind from Zainhide. Just continued wave clear across the boards, both of these teams wanting that level 7, or of course any sort of pick possible here, because that can really help them get that first turn in. The one dynamic on the map that doesn't exist for Simplicity is the Bruiser camp for Scythe Esports. So if Scythe are able to, you know, push out a wave or two to force numbers from Simplicity to be somewhere in the lane, they can get that Bruiser camp and look to get the first turn in through that way. But Simplicity doesn't really have that opportunity. They have to get a pick, or they have to get just an out rotation over their opponents, and they can't do it through wave clear because you're playing against a Gul'dan.
Very true, and it's continued to be a problem for them. King Caffeine continuing to try to just step up, drop off the gems blindly, but Johanna will blind him or just walk up and cleave. Bottom half, however, we do see some damage being applied to K1 Pro as Nesper's really stepping in, doing a lot of just free damage, but during that Leoric, gonna get the drop off.
And this is the play I was just talking about, but you have to be careful if you're a Scythe Esports, because Simplicity, if they catch wind of you being on Bruiser camp, they'll just overload on one side and get the turn in Zergling, taking a bit of damage here. Has to be very, very careful.
Mighty Blocks are good. Leap will be just about ready, but yeah, the silence is there. Nesper gets a turn onto him. We're going to see the Drain Life attempted, but Nesper blinking back to safety. King Caff interrupted by Zainhide. Once again, good job there by Zainhide, keeping the soak in the mid and also being there for the interrupt.
This is losing a lot of time for Scythe Esports. Talking Trees actually almost lost in the 1v1 against that Bruiser camp, and Simplicity got so much value off of that. Get the first turn into the game. However, Scythe Esports, again, they have the Gul'dan. They now have a Bruiser camp for mid, so mid is going to be highly irrelevant for Simplicity. And Gul'dan should be able to clear through mid-top. This might not be the biggest turn-in for Simplicity considering that, but Scythe still gave it away.
Yeah, they ended up just having to back off. But yeah, as you mentioned, Bruiser camp here to help defend, but actually Tassadar. I mean, we talk about Gul'dan clear, Tassadar making quick work of it with those size throws and crew, focusing them down. Leo's pushing bottom out towards the wall. They're going to get some damage done there. Half HP left on this mid lane. Shouldn't be able to do too much. Top now being a focus point there for Johanna as well. Nesper needs to be careful.
Big rotation coming out from Simplicity. Q landed from Raynor, not able to find anything more. K1 Pro is trying to get in any damage possible. Wall going down in the bot lane. This Web Weaver is going to be destroyed very, very shortly. Gul'dan cleared out top. Mid has been cleared as well. And Simplicity, despite getting that turn in, as we mentioned, the Bruiser camp was available, did get very little off that turn in.
This isn't bad, though. I'm actually a little surprised we saw the damage split. They could have focused and destroyed the well, and that would have at least been valuable. Doing a little bit of damage to the fort doesn't mean a whole lot. But 10 to 10 just about here for either of these teams, even with the structural damage done for the Web Weavers. If we do see a turn-in coming here for Scythe Esports, they're going to have the opportunity to really do a lot of damage with the Heroics in tow.
Single wall being picked up. Zuna is the focus target. 15 gems down, but Tiger JK going to be able to pick that one up. And first blood going over to Scythe Esports. Now they want to try to find a turn-in. You know, they just defended the Web Weaver so very well. Only a single wall going down in that exchange. Level 10s here for Scythe Esports with the kill. They need to find this turn-in.
Lingering in the top half. Okay. Now we got to watch out for the Void Prisons coming through. Obviously, that's a big way to just kind of set up for a fight, but the turn-in is successful here on the side of Scythe Esports, getting their first Web Weaver turn-in. Level 10, no Hyperion this game. Going to be Raynor's Raider. We saw a lot of Hyperion yesterday.
Zainhide is hanging on to that Heroic. Are we going to get that Falling Sword? I don't know. We'll find out. Dun, dun, dun. On the other side, for Simplicity, very standard Heroics, of course. That Entomb, we talked about the 20 power spike, and against the style of draft the Scythe is running, that's going to be a fantastic tool moving into the later stages of the game. Mid pushed up quite well here, but you were talking about the Tassadar wave clear, and it is profound.
It's working out very nicely for them thus far. Johanna still holding on that heroic ability. We'll keep you guys updated on that. Nothing has been... Okay, it's going to be blessed, yep.
Mid and bottom being pushed, and I like the split here from Scythe Esports. Having Zeratul in this bottom lane, they got the wall, they got the well, and most of this wave here. As long as they don't get caught out, Zergling actually jumping in with this Web Weaver. They want more than just this well.
K1 Pro did lose his Banshee a little bit earlier, so that's not available. The Horrify coming through, picking off K1 Pro in an instant. Nesper on the backside, huge cleave damage coming through. Archon used at the tail end of this fight, trying to get some damage back onto their opponents. King Caffeine will be dropped. 25 gems in his pocket, down into the nether. Entomb is available if they want to try to turn onto someone, but that's Zergling. He's going to have the jump away, popping the Ardent Defender just to be safe, worried about that silence.
Very little mana, and Scythe Esports pull the trigger with that bottom side push. Beautiful Void Prison, and Simplicity showed Leoric. Zuna showed on the top wave, so Scythe Esports knew that they were guaranteed a numbers advantage team fight, and just like that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a second turn in.
The back-to-back, now a full level lead in control of that game with, again, a Snap Horrify that worked out beautifully. Leoric definitely late to the party, and I gotta say, K1 Pro is kind of out of position. He didn't have his Banshee either for that fight. He kind of wasted it earlier in the lane, cleaning up the Web Weaver, and some uncharacteristic mistakes on his part.
Nesper trying to get some damage, actually getting about half of Tassidar's health. Of course, there is the W quest finished. It's a little bit of a power spike. Tassadar super low health at this point. Shield's coming through.
So Zuna, normally as Leoric, you can play a little bit greedy, but with 42 gems, has to play super safe right now, and I guarantee you he is not happy about that. He's going to want to drop off as soon as possible. Now, Druid's Bite from King Caffeine backing off as the mid fort has to be conceded, so 2 forts down now. Talent advantage with 14 to 12 being the level status, favoring Scythe Esports, and they're jumping in onto both the tanks. Zuna takes so much damage from that Gul'dan.
Good thing he escaped. You did talk about that gem count, 44 on the Leoric, and that is terrifying, because if you lose those, you lose so much momentum in this game. Of course, Tiger and Hosty have a decent amount of gems on themselves, but 92 and basically half of those in the bank,
yeah,
that's tough for the Leoric for sure.
Almost a full turn in. I mean, counts for a lot, but they can look for that turn in soon.
Yep, 13's on the horizon.
53 already gathered by Scythe Esports. The rotations have just been so effective in making sure they don't miss any of those gem drop-offs as the minions die across the map.
28 for Echoed Corruption right now. Talking Trees looking to hit that 40 as soon as possible, especially once that 16 comes through. Having that ruinous damage is absolutely insane. You can one-shot some squishy targets. Meanwhile, Bruiser Camp picked up for both of these teams. They would like to take fights in the Spell Armor, but Scythe Esports are just clearing it out real quick.
Yrel, Zeratul, Johanna just keeping everyone off the turn-in and maintaining the soak in the process. The positioning right now from the players of Scythe is about as good as it gets. There's just no weak points in their positioning, and when it comes to the mid lane, I mean, they're getting that push out, they're getting close to 16, and once they hit 16, it's problematic for Simplicity.
Yeah. Zuna taking a bit of damage, but Tiger JK going to be able to heal that one up with relative ease here. Now we're just seeing this little bit of a mid-game skirmish. Trees getting that turn in. Only 15 gems needed now for Scythe Esports. Nesper starting to channel up top, but of course that's not enough. Void Prison up, everything is up. Scythe Esports want to hit 16, but there's the fear.
The Blessed Shield and the Horrify, not enough, as we do see Stukov able to sustain through all of that. Big VP going down on 2 members, keeping Tiger JK out of that, making him quite vulnerable. Does he have the heal in time? Shield's coming through from King Caffeine. K1 Pro now being the focus, going to be condemned in and blown up. That's first kill of the fight. They need to try to find a kill into anyone, but just too much damage coming in. Zergling is on Hosty and turning for Leoric.
That's 52 gems, Jake. That is so many gems down for Simplicity. I talked about how important that is. That right there could very well be the nail in the coffin for Simplicity. That is so much momentum lost. Yes, they still do have enough for a turn-in, but that is an insane amount of value lost off of that death. And man, Zergling on that backside forced the Tassadar shields to go onto Stukov that whole time. Meanwhile, up front, you had K1 Pro in a lot of trouble getting hit by those corruptions. We actually see 34 stacks now, so a lot of value from corruption in that fight. Not being able to shield that main carry meant Simplicity handily lost that fight. Another turn-in going over to Scythe.
And, Simplicity had a desperate window. They needed to fight before 16. They started looking for it, but they just cannot get in there. When it comes to that Leoric and the Tyrael, neither of them really command like a hard engage for your team, getting in there, setting up for a single fight situation, and they are the ones that got pushed back. They got completely secluded. K1 Pro after that VP all by himself, and guess what? This is a triple turn-in, and it's going to do a ton of damage.
3-level lead against an HGC team when you have the Zeratul on your team is almost unheard of here. Scythe Esports look like a different team in this game number 2.
Yeah, no, it's going to be very difficult for them to turn this around if you're in the shoes of Simplicity. Webweaver is being escorted by Zeratul down bottom. Mid lane wall is down. Corruption just got completed at 1352. King Caffeine with the Blessed Shield on him. Caught by the Horrify. Down he goes. K1 Pro is super low as well, but they're more interested in the structures at this point in time.
Top side is absolutely massive. Tassadar trying to stop the bottom from pushing in. This Webweaver up top is still quite healthy. The minion wave is also insanely powerful, but Scythe decided to split. They actually they want to double keep play if they possibly can, but mid,
wow,
obviously going to go down very, very shortly here.
They're gonna VP goes down. K1 Pro getting caught by the Condemn. Not quite ready for the Blessed Shield, but they get the double kill, and this could be game here. Top keep's gonna go down. Bottom keep has a sliver of HP left. Mid is low as well. Triple keeps could be coming up.
This is a 4-level lead. I'm shaking. Scythe Esports just pulling the trigger, making this Zeratul look like it is hyper meta here. Huge plays by this open division team. Nesper is looking fantastic. Honestly, every member of Scythe right now is looking fantastic. Simplicity are just getting beat on every corner of the map.
And it's so good to see a team that played Zeratul last game did not see the success that we wanted to see, right? We were pretty critical about it. The competition didn't work. Just stick to their guns, pick it up again, and make it look incredible. And this is such a dominant
Nesper
situation.
Just played out of his mind. He just juked the members of Simplicity. Holy crap.
50 gems dropped. King Caffeine scoops them up. But regardless, they cannot even step out of their home right now.
Oh my gosh, that was such a sick play. Nesper, as we're pumping his tires, buddy, just straight makes a play onto Simplicity. Beautiful plays.
Okay, mid keep goes down. Catapults in the top lane with the boss. 20 picked up. It is currently a 5-level lead. About to be level 16 picked up here for this side of Simplicity. But does it even matter? 58 gems on the Tyrael. Sanctification of Endurance might be being used to try to relocate. But look at the core. The shields are gone. The players are dying. And Scythe Esports will tie up the series 1-1.
Absolutely incredible performance here by Scythe Esports. Is this the hardest a HGC team has ever been beaten by an open division team before? Like, that was insane. You know, that was like some Heroes Hearth days right there.
Yeah. No, they just slapped them around.
Yeah.
That was the training grounds, man. They just beat up their opponents, made it look easy. 47,000 damage dealt from Nesper on that Zeratul. 0 deaths. 11-0. Full-on dominance.
That play's going on Reddit, I'm telling you right now. That was absolutely insane. Nesper has made me a believer. You know, Nesper made me a believer many moons ago. Yeah, of course. This guy is a star player. Used to play a lot of World of Warcraft. My man's just kills it on the road. Comes over to Heroes of the Storm, making big plays on a similar style hero. Dude. You love seeing stuff like that. I'm so hyped for this series, man. This is insane.
We do have to take a short commercial break, but when we return, we will continue with Scythe vs. Simplicity.